If you want to completely reverse your bad weekends of overeating, there is one rule that you should be using every single weekend, and it's called the snowball effect. If you can understand the simple rule, you can make even the most difficult weekends easy to stick to. Of course, sticking to a diet is easy when you don't have much going on over the weekend. But how do you stick to a diet when you are going over to a friend's house that weekend? Maybe you are traveling for your kid's sporting event. Or maybe you went out to a Mexican restaurant and you have the temptation of the chips and salsa or the margaritas. Well, it's with this one rule. And I know this rule works because I've done countless hours in helping people lose fat. I'm currently down 7 pounds over the last 5 weeks, and I have lost 70 pounds in the past. Before I tell you a 3-step framework to use this rule, you need to understand that this rule is used negatively every single weekend that you screw up. I want you to think about it like this. Every weekend, you have one decision to be made. Do you push the snowball down, causing mass destruction, destroying everything in sight, setting things on fire, and just causing all hell to break loose over the weekend? Or do you push the snowball the other direction, where it's sunshine and rainbows? There's always something positive. The sun is out. You're going by a little nice pretty creek. This one decision could make the difference between whether you lose a pound or 2 of fat continuing going on in the weekend, or you gain 3 pounds of fat. So let's dive into the 3-step framework to use the snowball effect in your favor. Step number 1, the decision. The decision should have 3 main questions that you should be asking yourself. What would I do on my least motivated day? So, how do you make the barrier so small that no matter what, when you are not motivated at all, and you want to do nothing, you want to sleep in and do absolutely nothing, on that day, what is that one thing that has a barrier so low that no matter what, you would do it? I think the big issue for a lot of people is they overcomplicate what this decision should be. They tend to pick something that is extremely difficult. Maybe they try to get up at 6 a.m. on the weekend and work out when they're already not a morning person and they hate working out on the weekends. The second question, does it fall into one of these 3 buckets? Number 1 being, does it involve sunlight? So, could it be as simple as the moment you get up out of bed, you just go out for a walk in the morning and see sunshine? One of the biggest problems nowadays is people are stuck inside constantly. Or the moment they roll out of bed, they grab their phone and they're staring at a screen. Sunlight first thing in the morning is one of the best things you can do for your circadian rhythm. This is your body's clock telling you of when you should be going to bed at night and when you should be waking up in the morning. Not only that, but it also suppresses melatonin, which is going to make sure that you are more alert and not feeling those feelings of grogginess. The second bucket that this decision should fall into could be movement. Are you doing something that is going to get the endorphins running? This doesn't have to be a workout, although it could be. Is this something as simple as going for a walk? Is this something as simple as hopping on a bike? Could this be going actually and getting a workout in? This could be a little short stretch routine in the morning. And bucket number 3 that this can fall into is self-improvement. This doesn't have to necessarily be exercise or impacting your fat loss. This could be something as simple as reading a book. And you know after you read this book, you feel good doing it. This could be something as simple as you practicing Spanish, something that you know is getting you better and you feel rewarded because you are working towards some sort of goal. Now, the third question that needs to be addressed in the decision is, can I do this before anything else catches my attention? Like I said, a lot of people roll out of bed and the first thing that they do is they sit and they stare at a screen. Can this task be something that you do immediately the moment you wake up? You want this task over time to be automatic the moment you wake up, and that it happens every single weekend. And this is why it is so important to make this decision extremely simple for you to do. For me, what I like to do is I like to roll out of bed, and the first thing I like to do on a weekend is go and get a workout in, because I know it's going to positively impact the rest of my day. I make it so there is nothing that's going to happen before the moment I roll out of bed. I just go and get a workout in. Now, if you have a goal of losing weight and you're just unsure about where to start with your weight loss, unsure about the decisions that you should be making initially, well, I have a whole free 7-day email sequence that you can access about how to get back on track with your weight loss. That also teaches you little habits that you can start stacking on top of each other to make weight loss a lot easier. And these habits are habits you can use on the weekend because they're simple for you to do. You can access that by clicking the link in the description, completely free. So you'll just be hearing from me over the next 7 days about how to help you to lose fat. Now let's dive into step number 2, where all this starts to come together, which is the stack. This is the point where the snowball effect actually starts to take place. You did that first decision. You made that initial push to get the ball rolling. Now this is where things start to fall in place the entire weekend. You start stacking habits one on another, making it so your weekend has a bunch of positive actions. So you need to ask yourself, what's the next easiest action that you can take after you just did your first choice of a decision? So for example, what I tend to do on the weekend, I'll go get my workout in, and immediately when I get back is I have a good, healthy breakfast. I don't sit down on the couch and get caught up scrolling anything. I don't sit down to start working on any emails or working on any sort of videos. I go ahead and I start making a breakfast that is going to be healthy for me. This is something I do every single weekend. It's a non-negotiable for me. So now I have stacked 2 habits on top of each other in just a matter of about 60 minutes. Now, the next biggest thing that should be happening within your stack is, how can you make this automatic? And this is going to just take it through a little bit of time and trial and error, because you're going to make your decision. You're going to make that simple habit. But then you need to start figuring out the other things that are easy for you to do and simple for you to do to continue to stack on top of each other. So when you get back from a short walk in the morning, can you hit a certain number of protein before noon? The biggest thing when it comes to the stack is these decisions shouldn't be massive. You shouldn't have to sit every single time you come home and try to figure out what you are going to do. You should just have an action ready to take place and act on it. And then over time, you're gonna figure out what works and what doesn't work. Now, the third massive piece to the stack is you need to make sure that this is still within the time frame of where motivation is happening. You are going to be motivated after you've made your decision and executed on your decision. There's gonna be a time period when you get back where you feel that motivation, and it's now your job to continue that. A lot of people will slack on this, and they continue to go on and do something that makes them feel like shit the rest of the weekend or makes them feel lazy. Whereas if you did another thing that is positively impacting your fitness, your health, the rest of your weekend, this is how you get this to continue to build up over time. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that you need your entire weekend to be just full of positive actions. But if you can start stacking a couple in the morning, it makes it easier, so later in the day, you are way more likely to make a better decision. It makes it easier when you go out to that Mexican restaurant, you now know not to just overdo it like crazy on the chips and salsa. Or you know now that you can enjoy a couple margaritas, but don't feel the need to ruin your entire weekend. Where a lot of people, what they end up doing is they have a negative action. Then they start stacking a negative, and they just think they've ruined their entire progress. And then they go out to eat, and they eat way more than they probably should have. They have a couple trays of the chips and salsa. They just order the food that they overeat on it and don't even take the rest home for leftovers. They have 6 margaritas because you let these negative habits snowball instead of letting the positive habits early in the day snowball. Now let's move on to step 3, where most people can actually undo all their progress from step 1 and step 2. So step number 3, the catch. There are 52 weekends in a year. No matter what, you are going to have a moment where you fuck up, you screw up, you eat more than you probably should have. You went out the night before and then you slept in until 11 o'clock. And you got your day rolling until 12:30, 1 o'clock. And a lot of people will let this spiral into the entire weekend. They ruin all their progress over the weekend. They say, screw it, I'm just gonna eat a bunch on Sunday. I feel like crap, so I'm gonna order in for lunch and for dinner. And they'll say, I'm just gonna get back on track on Monday. You need to get really good at catching these moments because they're going to happen. You're going to have at least one, no matter how perfect you are. You're going to have a moment where you feel like you fucked up. You feel like you screwed up and overdid it. You need to recognize that moment, catch it, and now start the snowball effect over again and make a decision that is going to be positive. You need to understand this is one slip up, not something where you just ruin the rest of the weekend. This is by far one of the biggest problems that people make with their weight loss. So you have 2 options within the catch. You either need to A, forget about it and move on to the next day. Not worry about it, don't think about it, because if it's later in the day, just forget about it and move on. Or B, you need to already have some sort of pre-planned action that you're going to try when this happens, because it's going to happen. So maybe when it happens, you decide, I'm going to go get a short walk in. I'm going to make sure that I have a good dinner because maybe it happened earlier in the day. I'm going to plan a workout tomorrow morning. I screwed up on Sunday, so now I'm going to make sure I plan all my meals for the rest of the week. You need to have some sort of plan that when this happens, you are able to act immediately on something positive. Because if you can catch this snowball earlier, it is much easier to stop yourself than catching it later when you feel like you've ruined even more progress. Because the reality is you could take 1,000 wrong turns, but all it takes is one right turn to get back on track. So you need to catch it, because this one rule can seriously take someone from who feels stuck with weight loss because they keep losing all the progress that they were so perfect over on the weekend, to someone who is able to lose a pound to 2 pounds of weight loss a week. Weight loss is hard enough as it is, but there is a way to make it easier. So I recommend you watch this next video here where I tell you why high protein diets make it hard to stay fat.